Great day, beautiful people. This is Prophetess Elisa.
And almost said Prophet Cobb. Pastor Cobb.
Oh my goodness. You elevating?
No.
We got a new gift.
One prophet is enough.
Oh, Jesus.
That's what I'm saying, but I don't know.
Oh my.
I don't know. I said that. I don't know. Whatever. Okay. I don't want to get distracted with all of that.
Listen, it is a wonderful day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it.
Yes. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Let's do it together, not separate. Let's do it together. Yeah.
You know, we have been in an awesome study over the last month and a half talking about resounding a targeted view of killing off the offspring of Egypt from the perspective and the lens, or the scope, I should say, of marriage. And this week, I wanted to take a pause as we move through our posture of parables, and because it's not fitting. I don't want to say it's fitting as in it's rejoiced over, as well. Maybe we should rejoice when we lose someone, because when they know that they love God, because they are going home to be with the Father. However, I thought it so appropriate to, in this posture of parables and talking about legacy, to honor a woman of God that deposited so much into me. Actually, the name of our series, A Cord of Three Strands, is it was an homage to her and her late husband.
That's right.
Actually, because they poured so much into me as a wife, as a mother, understanding the ministry of marriage. And her name was Gladys Bohannon. She departed to be with the Lord earlier this month. I found out about her services actually the day of, like that evening. That broke my heart. However, I got to know her.
Okay.
And that had to resound with me. I had been yearning to see her for some time. She had moved out of state, and then I guess maybe she had come back because of some health challenges. But the thing that rested on me as we prepared this week, and I said I would be remiss not to incorporate her legacy, as I used to call her. I used to call her and her husband, the late Elder Bohannon, Goody 1 and Goody 2, because their marriage just permeated love. Like, I don't know, Ken, have you ever just witnessed one of those couples? It's just like, you just knew they just loved each other.
Yeah.
It wasn't everything is perfect. And they would tell you.
Right.
It wasn't all perfect. They would tell you. But they just permeated that oneness, the three-chord strand, the love. What about you?
Yeah, early on as a young fella, I remember this one pastor. I don't even remember his name, but he would, here's one of his things. He would say, God's got a better idea. And he would talk about his wife, and he must have been in his 80s, but he was real healthy, robust fella. And his wife was just a little short lady, so sweet. And he talked about when he would go to bed, he said, I got to have my sweetie with me. And you could tell that over the years he had to do something right, because they just blended so much. And they were totally different, in their approach. She was real soft and he was real outgoing, but he always looked after his wife. He spoke well of his wife, and he didn't make it seem like, well, we older now, she go do her thing. But he was always talking about them doing things together and how he needed his wife close next to him. And he, that just made the difference in his life and his world, to have her close and nearby. And then they did ministry together and had a nice little, maybe their church probably held maybe 150 people, something like that. It wasn't a real big church. but he pastored that church for a long time, and I always admired him
Yeah.
for that. And I mean, there's other people, but they, if I would say, they stood out because they were of age and have, endured the test of time.
Right.
And still made it. And he talked about the things. We don't everything ain't all howdy and all that. But they had some difficult times, but the good always outweighed the difficult.
Right. I think that when I was sitting and I was thinking, this is not meant to just be about, oh, let's give our homage. That could take a few minutes at the beginning, but to engulf their legacy, especially Elder G, as we called her, because they were both Elder Bohannon. She was a trailblazer, and even the ministry that we were part of at the time, she was so outstanding in her display of righteousness and godly love and mentorship, especially the older women to the younger women.
Okay.
And she was recognized as an elder and ordained as an elder. And that was a big thing for that ministry, for a woman to be recognized and ordained. And what I thought was relevant as we were speaking about legacy was the things that I remember impacting me, to reflect on the things that she taught and she talked about in regards to marriage that really had an impact on me that even permeates through to now. And this is important because, having had a prior marriage, and it was my prior marriage that I was sitting under their teachings, it would be easy in the flesh to be like, oh, but I failed, because that marriage didn't make it. However, I have a different viewpoint on it because of where I've grown to, how the Lord has dealt with me on how we make decisions and how we grow and our intimacy with Him, and how we can move on things based off of other people's words, or even just understanding the heart of man. There is, even in that season, He used that time. That marriage made it 18 years. We were together 18 years and young. So while it may not have been the 50, but that was with some of the challenges that were faced, to have made it that long and to have as many awesome outcomes from it, and to see how I've grown and even how it impacted and shaped me to prepare me for our union. It was a Nabi word, the things that came out of her mouth. So I want to share at least, I'd like to say 5, but I just wanted to kind of discuss and impart into the people those little nuggets that she used to share. One of them, which I'm sure many, especially our husbands, would love, is she always talked about homework. She always would stress to the women, not just the women, actually. She and her husband, Goody One, they would stress when we would come in for our small group. Did you do your homework this week? And by homework, she meant intimate time. She meant intimate time with your spouse.
Now, why is it that when people talk about intimate, and I'm sure there's different levels of intimacy,
and by intimate,
but I'm sure
she
you
meant
talk
sex,
right? And why they always attribute that to the man, like it's taboo.
Well, that's why I said. Well, that's why I said it wasn't just. It wasn't. It was more so like it was a resounding message between the two of them. But she always made sure she made it a point to ask the women, and he always made sure he made it a point to ask the men. And then they always made it a point once we got together to ask together. They always made it a point, and it was like an ongoing. They made not so much light of it, but they made it a joyful thing to talk about, and that was important. like
Yes.
looking back, because I think it's one of those hard conversations that maybe we might talk about it with other people or within our own head, but if it's not happening, it's being talked about. Even if it's in the conversation of the nonverbal communication, it's talked about.
Well, I think that's why intimacy with Christ is so important, because how Christ loved the church is how we should love our wives, and vice versa. And so when we talk about being in his presence, being close to him, that is very significant. It doesn't matter whether we are upset or mad. We can come into the presence of God and sup with him and receive from him, and to explain some things and talk and say, well, this doesn't feel good to me. I don't like this because of this. And then you have to make some adjustments, because as you get older, your playtime ain't so playful. You might have some hurts and you have different concerns. So each level or age, as you mature in course of life, things change. And so you have to make those adjustments, and you have to talk about that, because you change, I change, we change. And so we have to adjust our playtime and what that looks like moving forward. But it's a pleasurable thing. It's not like, I hate this, man, this is tedious. It shouldn't be like that. It should be like, man, I miss my sweetie, or I miss him, or blah, blah, blah. And
Right. Well, I think the other thing about it is that while we want to make sure, because of course we don't see scripture where God is not sleeping, in that way, but he knows the church.
I'm just talking about the
right?
intimate.
Right. I understand. We just in terms of, for those that may be listening and they may not be aware.
Okay.
But what I think they were stressing, not just intimacy in terms of quiet time, alone time together. They were stressing the act of physical connection.
Right.
And I heard something this week. I'm going to share it with you. It was like one of those Facebook videos or something where the two girls were talking, and the one was saying, oh, I remember when my friend, she was talking about she was going to remain celibate. She wasn't going to be with anybody until, she was ready to have children. And I don't know if she necessarily said marriage, but she just said until she's ready to have children. And at least that was the thing that kept her. And she said it was because she had read something, and it was a word she used. Forgive me, I don't remember the word, but it was the study of understanding that it was an actual scientific study,
Right.
where they had studied how a female's future offspring can be genetically altered by the presence of the semen from previous partner.
Right.
And I could get all into the weeds of that. However, the point being is that if you imagine how there is literally evidence where they have a female, I think they had used a horse and zebra or something, but the point was that even though it was completely against anything within the regular genetic makeup of that horse to create an offspring with zebras, the fact that had been introduced, and then even the ones in the future were with other partners, it still presented stripes, which is not, it doesn't happen in the lineage of a horse.
Right.
It gave some other things. I'm talking from a larger scope, right? But it still made me think evocatively about all the signs and the things about what we shouldn't do in regards to sex.
And the benefits of that.
But then a lot of times we don't have the stress of the benefits of how it allows that quarter three strands to come together, and how much of an impact it even has on our legacy, that very act. So the fact that they stressed, did you have praise and worship? Did you do your homework? That's what they used to call it. Did you have praise and worship?
Oh, yeah.
Did you do your homework? It was a resounding note about something so intricate and so important.
Yeah.
Another thing that she talked about, and actually it came up to me this week. We were out of town. We were doing some ministry in Kansas City, and they told a story one time about order and prayer. And she didn't necessarily give a scripture about it, but she shared an anecdote of a correction that she was given. And so she said that Goody one, her husband, Elder Bohanna, he was praying. And every time he would pray, she would come behind him and pray again. Like, she wasn't really thinking nothing of it, but she would add something to it, whatever. And not so much that was a bad thing. But finally, one time, and he was such a soft-spoken man. And all of, like, and they didn't have children of their own. She had children by the time they married. But the kids loved him. Oh, and even after he was gone, or when, like, you could tell that her children loved this man like he was their natural daddy, and it was no questioning it. And so he was very soft spoken. He didn't man a few words, but he was a man. Like, if he said something, it was like, shut up, because Papa is talking. And his silence brought amplification when he did speak. And so she said that he said to her, don't do that. And she was like, don't do what? And he said, when I'm covering us, if I end it, let it be there. This is what needs to be said at that time. You don't have to come back behind me and clean up, I think, something to that effect. And she was like, what? What are you talking about? I'm just praying, and you're not the only one that can pray. And, they were, so the point is, they were being very candid about a hiccup in their theology and their understanding of union and submission. And so, and she said she carried that for a while, like, even with having her heart to feel some sort of way, like, I'm just not going to say nothing because I'm not supposed to be usurping. And so finally, she said one day she sat and she just got it. The Lord just brought it to her, and she said, it's not that you cannot add on to. It's the fact that, he said, I allowed him to correct you in your adding. He said, because you're to be coming together, and you were so concerned on what you wanted to say in the prayer that you forgot to agree with what I gave him to put over you and speak over you in the prayer in the first place. That's why I gave him the tenacity to tell you to be quiet.
Wow. Yeah.
And I thought about that actually even this week, because we were praying. And, a group of leaders were praying. We were closing out, and you were praying. And the Lord gave me something else. But I remember that hesitation to say, well, Lord, can I add to that? Because my husband is praying, and you gave him, you know what I mean? You gave him. But this is years later. Oh, my God. Kaz is 10. He'll be 10 this week. He was months old. So this is something that this woman, that the Lord gave them and imparted into her, and she shared. It's 10 years at least later, 9, 10 almost. But if nothing else, it was a gentle edging of a sword. An iron sharpens iron. It was saying, woman, guard your tongue. Be mindful of your motive. Check with the Lord. Yes, you got it, but is this something that you need to be saying now? But more importantly, before you say it, have you agreed with the man of God in your spirit? Have you committed your focus to agree and put fuel of that incense, of that prayer that he has already sent up before the Lord? Or have you abandoned it to go after your own?
Yeah. So would you say that was a strength in the underlying strength in the totality of what the legacy was to work together and respect the other person, and not, even though you have your own thoughts, but your thoughts should always be complete with merging with the thoughts
Yes.
of your partner.
And I believe that was, I don't know if she ever even remembered that story if I started talking about it. Like, she maybe not even remembered that story, but it was so impactful on me. Another lesson, if I was to do a 3, because we talked about the practicality of intimacy, right? We talked about honoring each other in the time of prayer, was finances. She was very candid about how she was not the best with finances. She would spend, she would just get, because she had a good job, she made pretty good money. And when he came in, it was like he had a good job as well, and he believed in the old school, you can earn whatever you earn it, but it's my responsibility to take care of you. Whatever bill you got, it's my responsibility. If you need this, the kids need that, the house needs this, it's my responsibility. So you may be able to take care of it, but it's my responsibility to take care of that. And so she could pretty much do what she wanted to do with her money. And she said, finally, one day he said to her, you need to slow up on all that spending. You don't need that. And she said she kind of recoiled, like, what? I don't need what? I don't remember what it was that she said she bought. Like, he was pretty okay with, I think they were from Chicago or whatever. So she was, or Detroit. I can't remember where they were from. And then they spent some time living in the other. But he was pretty okay with her with splurging on her hair and nails and things like that, because she was a very ladies type. She liked those things, and he liked those things for her. So he didn't too much grapple with her with those things, but excessiveness with clothes and other things he had a problem with, obviously. And so he said something to her, and the point of the story when she was telling it was that, again, that was one of those times where she was like, what? And it was like her world was just like, how dare you? Like, am I? But you know what she said, again, it was always the Lord's way, and she believed that it was because of his relationship with God, that he wouldn't argue with her. He would want to argue, and he would just look at her. he wouldn't do it. She would feel seen, but he would not. His way of handling her was always so gentle. And she said she could see how that was the thing that impacted her and shifted her and prepared her for even the marriage ministry, which she would never have thought that she would be doing, because she felt like she was such a mess. But it was that posture that she believed that allowed God he would just honor her husband's posture of her and come in and correct her and say, it's not about you're doing something so wrong. Right. It's about that I've imparted to him a wisdom and a balance, and you don't have that. So he's reining you in, and you need to honor that, because he's a man of few words. If he's reining you in, it's something I've put in him that's protecting you from something. And that was...
Now, what was the difference? Was there a big gap in their age, or were they close in age?
No. I think it was only a couple years. It wasn't a huge gap in age, no. I don't remember their actual age, but I remember, I just remember that they didn't have their own biological children. Yeah. They were young. The babies were young when they got together, so he was still actively in the rearing and all of that, but I don't remember the age.
So did she grasp that pretty quick, or was that a process she went through? Like, was she able to...
Well, they have a way of telling these stories, and it doesn't always show the time period in there. But I know it was like one of those things where she said she never, but one thing she did say is that she never would usurp him in front of the kids. So even if it was always like these inward battles, like she would conform, but not necessarily submit. So outwardly, she did whatever it is that he asked her to do, but inwardly.
Right.
She was grappling with it. What was that? Number 3? Number 4, a lesson would be conversation and submission. She told this story. These are all parables, right? Their own personal parables. She told a story about how she, with interacting with him and how they had conversation. And she always, sometimes she wouldn't be disrespectful, but she was kind of rough. It was just her nature.
Right.
How she was raised or how she communicated, maybe just, just her demeanor, outspoken, what have you. And she said she was talking to him about something one time, and whatever it was, she said God whooped her. He whooped her. She said, I just remember her like grasping her chest when she was saying it. Like you could see she was almost like reliving that whooping when she was telling the story. And he said to her, did I not give you a gift in this man for you to talk to your gift that way? Are you honoring me with how you're talking to him? And I just remember sitting there like clenching my own butt. Like, ooh. But there was so much to glean from that, because one, God was affirming and reaffirming the union. Because the word we talk about, he said, whom God joins together, let no man bring asunder. And there's a lot of unions that God didn't bring together. Our lust did.
Right. When you talk about how God dealt with her and her thought pattern and how he would speak to her, it almost would imply that, you just do what your husband say. I don't think that's it. I think just from, if I would evaluate what you just said, all 4, I would say that it's like you have a place with God that you open to the life that he wants for you, not this thing that the world tells you. Like, you can have what you want, and it's never inclusive of anybody else. It's just about how you feel. But she took her feelings and put them somewhere. And maybe initially she was obedient, but she had to still deal with or grapple with herself on, how do I change? You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, well, I know I need to be obedient, or I need to forgive. And that's what I want to say. I need to forgive, but I've forgiven, but I feel like I still am harboring something. Mm-hmm. So that's a process. Even though you're obedient to forgive with your mouth, and your heart wants to be where your mouth is, it hadn't quite got there. So you have to work a process, because you're pulling out something that's in there that's causing your heart not to match with your mouth. Mm-hmm. And so her process seemed to me was that I am fully committed to doing what God says doing, and making my flesh submit to the will of God, mm-hmm. as opposed to overriding and just, God said that to me. He don't even know, but God said to me, I'm just going to be something I'm going to internalize because I'm not going to tell him. But for her to be so open and share that, I'm sure there was a process with that.
Right. And then it just, them by their fruit. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they were these were a lot of times like the pre-conversations. This wasn't ever like the lesson that we were going over for that week. These were the pre. This was the pre-gaming. Just the little nuggets that fell from their mouth.
Give me the match. Start the fire.
Right. It was It was their fire starters. It was the things that when we say more is caught than taught.
Right.
Like those were the things that embedded itself on me. Mm-hmm. This woman is gone, and her husband is gone. Unfortunately, like she lost him during COVID. It was so heartbreaking, like because at the time it was at the height of when we didn't know what was happening, and if somebody had COVID, then you had to stay apart, and they were in the same house, but he was in the bedroom for weeks. They didn't, just passing through the door. Right. And then when he had to be taken out, they went to the hospital. They wouldn't allow her there. And so it was so heartbreaking, more the so, not just the loss, because we know how close they were. Yeah. They were always together, even when they weren't together. They were together. They were on each other's minds, serving each other constantly. It was just as much as they breathed in and out. They, just like when we breathe, we're saying Yahweh, even in our breath, that's how their relationship was. So that story, it was so much more like heartbreaking because we knew that, right? If I was to give a final, because it was so many lessons, but a 5, it was the prayer for your spouse. They gave us an assignment at the beginning, the first week of quarter 3 strands of that particular married small group cycle. And they told us to write a letter and put in there the things that we were praying for our marriage, and specifically for our spouse, that we wanted to believe God for and see change. And then they would have us seal the envelope, write on the back of it, and give it to them to put into a sealed bag. And you wouldn't get it back until the end. And so the end of that cycle came, and I remember looking at it and seeing so many areas that nothing changed. I remember looking at it, and 2 things. I remember seeing things that just resounded and reminded of hurt, and things that didn't change. Well, the testimony doesn't end there. It was some years later. I was going through some stuff, transitioning, as God likes to move me about the country. And I remember coming across this. I'm like, what's this? And you had to put your spouse's name on the front, each other's name. So you gave it to the other one. And they were supposed to read the letter. So that's something I probably should say. It was things that was for myself that I saw didn't change. Prayers for him. And then when we shared, vice versa, things that didn't change. Well, we fast forward years later, I think by then, maybe the divorce had happened or not long removed. And I think the 2 letters were together. But I got to see, reconnect with the letter I had written for him. And I looked over that list, and it was so many things that I had prayed for him that had shifted. The point was, it took time.
Okay.
It took time. And I don't remember that I saw mine, but the point I'm making is that in the artifact of that letter, if I would have stayed it's at the end of this 10, 12, however many week cycle, and nothing changed, that would be easy. Like, that's the story. What was the point? But then in that offering of enter these things into prayer, somewhere between that year 0 and whatever year, and mind you, this was post-divorce. But the Lord allowed me to reconnect with that prayer letter and see so many things that had changed. So I took that as a homage to and a time of reverence to that teaching, because we still grew. I could see growth in him. I could see maturing in him. I could see how, as his wife, and putting those things before the Lord in prayer, and we might say, oh, it's a failure, like it didn't work. But he is still living. You are still progressing. You are still a father. So these are things that, in the course of that union, there was maturing, and there was elevation, and there was more understanding in the word. There was all of those things that we miss a lot of times when we feel like the enemy wants to remind us that you were a failure. He likes to smoke screen all the things that in the midst of that storm, in the midst of that trial, in the midst of the grooming, in the midst of the pain, there was a sharpening, and there was a preparation for a new season.
Yeah. Well, I think the encouragement is that You can take the example from others and you can grow it as much as you want, or you can let it fall by the wayside and say, this is not applicable to me, and just go about, groping. But you can take some foundational things and you can see if they work by trying them. And just like writing the letter, applying that and coming back and tracking it, it's basically, and looking to see what actually worked, what actually changed, what type of growth. And then you could say, start the discussion, why didn't it change? Why didn't it grow? Why did it grow? And how much growth did you get over a period of time? And how that improved your life and everything about you.
Yes. So I think that was an amazing opportunity to talk about not only in our posture of parables that we have fallen in love with, that the Lord has given us, but a tangible mark of legacy that Elder Gladys Bohannon left on me. She played a part. That older woman sharpened this younger woman, and it's things that that you reap the benefits of, because whether it's spoken or unspoken, just like last week, there was a resounding of a lesson that came through that helped to remind me to honor you. So for our fire starter today, I like to say and encourage each of you to look back on who the Lord has placed into your life, whether it's current or past, that has deposited nuggets, golden jewels that have come from their lips, especially when they share it from a transparent place of a parable from within their own lived experience and growth of their marriage and how it has impacted you. And I would say that if they are living, go back and honor them. Give honor where honor is due.
Right.
Tell them how that thing they shared, that trial that God brought them through, and as they testified, it allowed you to overcome through the word of their testimony, of their union and their trial and their paradigm set, as whether it was stinking thinking or not, how it helped you. Because sometimes we don't know that we're helping, or that pain, or that stinking mindset that you had, but in sharing with others that you were in a bad place, that thing was corrected in the spirit, and how the Lord revealed it, and then you sharing it helps someone else avoid a pitfall.
Right. Well, we're going to wrap it up by saying that be not only a hearer, but a doer of the word. And if you really want to honor someone, show them by implementing in your life what they taught. And ultimately, the plateau of that would be to pass it on and not hoard it, but create your own legacy, through giving the gift that gave to you.
Amen. Have a great day.
All right. See you next time.